Hey everybody, welcome back to the Smite Super Regionals. Today we've had another transformation on our analyst desk here. We've got Tolly over here, my man, and Dazer, the coach for Orbit, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
How
it's
are
nice
you boys
to be here.
feeling right now in day number 2 of the group play?
So obviously very demoralized. At this point it's looking very unlikely for us to qualify, which obviously we're all upset about. But hopefully time will heal all wounds, so hopefully we can pull
mathematically, you guys are not out. You will have 1 win, 2 losses. If Luminosity do win here, though, mathematically, because they have the head-to-head record, then they would be overcoming you guys. But how do you think Luminosity's chances are against Allegiance in this set?
If I'm honest, I think LG will win, which is obviously not so good for us, but in all honesty, I think I want them to win, honestly. I love those boys on their team. I think they're great guys, so I think for us it is too late now. Obviously we were rooting for Sanguine there because there was another way where if Sanguine won all their games today, we had a possibility there. But yeah, so obviously now it's not looking likely for us, so yeah.
Well, you know, there's been a lot of pessimism on my analyst desk right now, and I love it. But let's talk about why you might be pessimistic, because there are 2 good teams really playing against each other right now. And it's really not, you know, things have happened, but right now you're looking at Luminosity, who have found the rhythm. You know, BaRRaCCuDDa on ROM the other day looked phenomenal. A lot of people were commenting that they haven't seen him look this good in a while. I think this is a really interesting test of where Allegiance, where Luminosity actually stand in terms of top-tier teams. What do you think this matchup is going to reveal about their caliber, their ability to potentially move and win Worlds?
Both of these teams are just so remarkable, and there's a lot of stipulations for this set, because right now, if Allegiance win this one, they're guaranteed 1st seed coming out of the wild card with 5 wins. And then obviously, if Luminosity win this, not only are Orbit out, but our Team Dignitas is out, and on top of that, they need to win 1 more out of the remainder 2 games after this to be able to clinch their spot into Worlds. So really high caliber players out of this team. We saw MLC Stealth, one of the puzzle pieces from the former C9.
That's right.
To be able to get into Worlds. So now we also have JeffHindla and BaRRaCCuDDa trying to also get over there. So I'm expecting a lot of fireworks between these 2 teams. They're the best of the best right now, I would say, out of North America remaining in this group play.
Dazer, why do you think LG has the advantage in this matchup specifically? You mentioned they were going to win. What's on your mind?
I think the main thing here is LG haven't been together as long as the other guys have. They've been together for quite a long time now, and as Self said in his interview, the synergy isn't quite there maybe in some ways. That's why I think the game against S&G maybe didn't run as smoothly as it could have for them. But I think in theory, I mean, it's going to be a great game either way. Like, there's a lot running on this game, as you said. So
they definitely rely on more skill than necessarily the teamwork coming out of Luminosity. So that's the one factor we could see in this matchup.
That's a great question. Moving into this, you all are very familiar with both teams, both groups of players. The building, not in the building, but the building of the draft phase and putting that composition together, it didn't seem to be enticing to Drelo. It didn't seem to make a lot of sense to you. Do you think that ALG are just kind of lacking right now because they've been putting these makeshift pieces together in terms of that cohesion to actually outdraft Luminosity in this game?
They definitely built a very squishy composition that last game, putting the Alkwang with the Nox, but it made a little bit of sense because every time Athena would dash initiate, the Noxons would be waiting for him. Definitely a lot of damage late game, just not enough control, so that's something that Luminosity might be able to exploit.
Yeah, no, the Nox was actually a very smart pick, and just into the Athena alone, just as you said, like every time she dashes in, it's really easy to silence her and make the taunt absolutely useless. So, I mean, it's smart in some senses, but in other ways, it's not so good, you know, because Nox is somewhat of a questionable god. She's really hit or miss, you know, and in that game, it was, in my opinion, it was more of a miss, but like there was areas where it did really shine, like with the FG at the end, where because of the silence, Murder can hog it, wrap it, sorry. But yeah, so, I mean, there's definitely benefits for it.
What's the win condition for these teams here? That's kind of what I want to know. What allows ALG to maybe take the advantage in this game? Given it to Luminosity already, how can ALG kind of combat what you're thinking is already an advantage for LG at this point?
I think it depends very much on the drafts and how they need to push their leads or whatever. It depends on whether they have hunters, you think?
I think that it's going to be actually the soul laners, actually, between CycloneSpin and Scary D. What's going to happen there is CycloneSpin is always so aggressive, in any little matchup advantage that he can get, he will try to exploit it. He will invade your blue buff given the opportunity.
Yeah, I actually think it depends a lot more on the mid three, actually. Whichever one has the pressure is going to be able to invade a lot more easily, and I think whoever gets the early lead in this game is going to win this game.
And between the Hunters, though, Oceans and BaRRaCCuDDa, the other side lanes, it's going to be interesting to see how that develops, because we actually saw Oceans getting soloed by Arco that last game. Really great performance coming out of the European Hunter. Unfortunately, couldn't really pull it home. And now this time, Oceans has a more difficult challenge up ahead against himself, because he's going to be up against BaRRaCCuDDa. And we've seen just how aggressive he's been.
Yeah, he's been so aggressive lately. You were just mentioning it, but does this Oceans? You look at that KDA, you look at those numbers.
So
he's happy. He's gone to Worlds. I'm curious about two things: him letting his foot off the gas here because they've already qualified and LG haven't. But more importantly, getting soloed and then having BaRRa be on his game and be more aggressive as of late. Is he going to be a little more timid than we usually see him?
I think that we're going to see him be more calculating more than anything else. Oceans will not let go of an opportunity if he could be on the aggressive side of things. He just needs to be more calculating about when the opponent will have that advantage.
Yeah, I think he had somewhat of a rough game last game, obviously getting soloed by Arco. But I think obviously going into the next game, I think that he should have reset his mind by now, and I think he would have done that. I mean, so I think he should be fine going into this one. So I think it'll be a lot more calculated and take less risks.
I'd like to see PolarBearMike and JeffHindla just shouting at each other. Just have a shouting match. See which voice would carry the room. Because both of them, they have these personalities that extend far beyond where they are in physical space. You know when they're in the room. You know when they're in the building. And those are the two supports that are coming in for BaRRa and for Oceans. And BaRRa, he looks happy here as well.
BaRRa's just a happy-go-loving guy. There's never a point in time when you can actually see him frowning on purpose. He's just always so happy. And other loud voices besides the two supports of this team is definitely the junglers here. Both Weaken and Mask are very loud personalities.
That's right.
If you've been sitting out there in the esports arena, you could definitely hear those two specifically pop off during plays.
Yeah, he definitely can. I think Mask is a player which really depends on I would say he's quite maybe somewhat of an emotional player. If they're getting the lead, then he's going to be absolutely buzzing. Like he's gonna keep calling, going to keep wanting to look for these invades and just keep the pressure up. And that's just what he loves to do. And that's how I think they will win this game.
He's definitely momentum-driven, Mask. He looks for those plays whenever he can get them. One of his favorite gods is the BaRRaCCuDDa. It has been banned a lot against him, but we'll see that if that's going to be an opportunity for Allegiance to strip away that BaRRaCCuDDa.
Yeah, I think it might be quite a smart ban for them, because obviously it's such a high-pressure jungler, and obviously, like I just said, the Mask I feel like he does need to get the pressure early, and if he doesn't, then it can obviously vary his gameplay, but I think that should be a good ban for them, but we'll see what they do. Obviously, they've got a better plan than me, so.
Well, we'll see. You never know. I mean, you're here on the sidelines. They're in the pressure. MLC, he doesn't feel like he's feeling it. He's excited to go to Worlds and get that party on, but one more game before that is possible.
Allegiance still are in a position that they could qualify for the first seed heading out of the wildcard group, so they're definitely going to be playing with a lot on the line here. They want to get in the best possible position heading into Worlds, and knowing how competitive Allegiance is, they're not going to let their foot off the gas pedal.
Interesting. Dazer, looking at yesterday, Mass, you talked about a player with momentum. He was on the Susano yesterday, and he did very well. He was rubbing his hands before the start of the game, so excited.
Yeah.
Do they take that away? Because he seems to feel very comfortable on them.
Yeah, no, he is very comfortable on it. I think it's not something that you do need to take away, because I think there is things that do well into it. I think it's not really that much of an important pick for them. I think the main reason why he was ready for Susano, I think, is that he was going into the Ao Kuang, which is a very good matchup for the Susano. But yeah, looking at the draft though so far, I really like what both teams have done.
So with Allegiance first picking this Erlang Shen, we know how flexible they are with a lot of gods in their picks. This can easily go to PolarBearMike, Weaken, or CycloneSpin, so this is why they prioritize it so early in the drafting phase. And now immediately, Luminosity respond with a Jing wave for BaRRaCCuDDa, Janus providing so much mobility for Luminosity.
Yeah, no, the Erlang Shen makes a lot of sense. Obviously picking flex picks early as possible is really, really powerful for your drafting. But the Sylvanus pick, that is very interesting to me. At this stage, it doesn't make too much sense, but obviously they have some sort of an idea with it.
It seems that it could be a strategy trying to take that away from JeffHindla as well, because we've seen actually Aurora from Eager just pull out some really gnarly pulls through the walls, and if JeffHindla picks that god up, then he could easily find some setups as well, but instead going to be leaning more towards the Bacchus, which is your more traditional support, more damage oriented.
Yeah, I like the Bacchus pick a lot here. It makes a lot of sense to Sylvanus as well. Sylvanus is a god. The reason why he's not picked too often is that he's really easy to pick off in the jungle. And at the moment, Luminosity have a really good draft for doing that. They have the Janus, they have the Jing, and there's a lot of CC and a lot of mobility to actually catch up to him and be able to catch him.
Do you expect a Nemesis ban out of Allegiance just to not allow Luminosity to synergize a little bit more with this Bacchus, trying to make sure that PolarBearMike playing the Sylvanus will actually survive in the jungle?
I'm not entirely sure, really. It's kind of weird. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but the bans coming out so far. Oh, a second Terror ban.
A Thor and a Ratatasker ban, though, from Allegiance,
Oh, yeah.
definitely targeting the junglers from Mass. We know how powerful he is with these semi-global gods. Now, there's a few options for him here. He could go the Nemesis trying to burst down the Sylvanus, or he could look for maybe even a Naja.
Yeah, just saying about the bans, I really like the fact that they banned the Rat and the Thor here. If they had more CC on the team, then that makes a lot more sense, but the Susano,
There it is.
Mass must be happy about that.
So we just talked about it, and there it is. He's going off his momentum from yesterday. After the games, he was giddy, I would say. He was sitting and chatting with the EU boys. He was happy. He was talking about, I don't know, Tinder or something like that. It was his conversations were going all over the place because he was so happy about how he performed. He locks that god in today. He's got to be feeling good about it.
Luminosity, what I see out of their composition is knock-up on knock-up on knock-up between Susano with the Typhoon, Bacchus knock-up, obviously Jingwei Persistent Gust. And surprisingly enough, Allegiance elect to take this Awilix pick where they do have a little bit of synergy here because of the Sylvanus ultimate, obviously Erlang Shen going into the turtle form, and Medusa for Oceans.
Dazer, is this because of the knockups on the side of Luminosity? Allegiance wanted to take that Awilix away?
I think, yeah, I think in part it is that Awilix is actually quite a good pick into Jingwei. Obviously, she can't dash away so easily or knock herself up. It's really good to the Bacchus. It takes away the initiation completely. Like, it's actually one of the more, like, really, really annoying for a Bacchus to play into, of course. But because it means he has to run beads and, like, pre-beads before he flops in, which is something which is very hard to do. But yeah, and as well, because of the Awilix pick, it means that we can be able to gank CycloneSpin so easily now. It's something
This
that
could be Erlang Shen in the jungle and a Awilix for soul lane for CycloneSpin, actually. We could see a lot of early aggression trying to shut down Scary D's Vamana.
I would think that'd be a mistake though, doing it that way. Really, it means the Erlang Shen being there that means the ganking that lane is just so easy for her.
Well, I know they want to get the solo lane going in CycloneSpin's favor. He's been carrying them the last couple of games. Let's see if Mast on that Susano can carry his team like he did yesterday evening. Casters, it's your time. Allegiance and Luminosity.
Thanks so much, Rain Day and the Analysts once again. Team Allegiance have already qualified. We saw it a minute ago. However, Luminosity, they still have some work to do, and beating Allegiance will put them in this step in the right direction.
So they have 3 games left. Flashpoint can actually still qualify out of North America, something to know. Also, EU still has a chance, but it requires LG to lose all 3 of their games. Still important that LG wins this over ALG, because then they can still take a loss to Flashpoint and close out for 4 total wins.
Most of the Europe have already given up hope, and I think even the players themselves don't really see Luminosity losing all 3 games today. That's the truth of it. I don't think anybody really thinks Luminosity will manage to do that and lose all 3. Obviously, they're going to face against Flashpoint, which they've done well against all year. They're against Allegiance, which could be a very difficult task. And then finally, they still have 1 game against, I believe it's Dignitas left to play.
Yes, I think that's going to be their final one. It's not going to be easy regardless here. This lineup, though, coming out from ALG, pretty spicy. I mean, you've got a Sylvanus and a Medusa, 2 gods you don't really see in the meta too much. I'd say you see Sylvanus a lot more than Medusa, though, but they're going to be laning together. And that's something that LG probably doesn't have a lot of practice against. I mean, when's the last time you've laned against a Medusa and a Sylvanus?
That's true. I mean, I'm actually looking at the comp from Allegiance here, and all I can see is cripples and knockups are the big combinations here from the 2 of them. They have Scylla in the middle lane, so MLC still playing that again with the cripples, and also CycloneSpin with the cripples on the side of that pin.
Same with Weaken.
But then Weaken also as well has that cripple that can come into play with the Feather Step, and then you've also got the knockup with Sylvanus interacting and Cyclone interacting with Weaken's Gravity Surge.
I hope LG would expect this. It's an Awilix, Erlang Shen, but it appears
Dignitas,
they
is that
haven't.
you? This is not the, this is a
body
real
blocks.
fight, and now we're going to see First Blood. Scary D's in a lot of trouble here. Going to continue to run away. I don't think they've got the cooldowns there, though. Cyclone did use the pin, as you could already tell, I believe, and that's just going to mean that they can walk away, but they will lose the speed buff here.
And I like what Cyclone's doing, just zoning out, making sure this speed buff is going to be secured, and just putting more poke damage onto Mast and Scary. I mean, it's going to be hard for them to do anything, and the speed buff is actually dropped
Janus is
again.
coming now. Because it's taken so long, Xeno's here at level 2, and Xeno could actually secure this with
they got
a
was this
portal.
called?
A portal unstable vortex could happen because of this. And now we're going to see a rotation out of Allegiance's mid lane as well. Sylvanus has come over. The pin hits Mass. The Mass is still level 1. Feather Step is good. The portal's going to buy him a second. And Force to Purify is weakened. But the support is here. And Stealth will pick up first blood onto Scaredy. A minute in the game, and we've still not had a speed or a blue buff taken.
Where the hell did Mike come from? Rotates all the way over to duo with Blink. Sylvanus finds the route as well. I mean, great job by Xenotronics there on that portal, actually allowing Mass to get away, but it's unfortunate that Scaredy was left alone. This has been a very peculiar start, and everyone is behind because of it. We can still level 1, minute and a half in, and he took Fire Elemental speed buff, got first blood, or an assist on it, and the mid Harpies,
but he's still level 1.
Still level 1.
Still level 1, level 2 for Scaredy right now.
161 XP per minute.
It's a crazy game so far already at the start of this, and it's just going to slow the game pace down from the junglers, from the solo laners as well. The mid laners will be happy. Look at Stealth, level 4 at less than 2 minutes in already. He's approaching level 5 quickly, and they're looking to invade the blue buff.
It doesn't look like LG want to give this up for free, though. You could see Xeno portaling aggressively in. Jeff looking for the stun. He does find it on weekend, but I mean, the blue buff's already been picked up. There's been so many waves missed by everyone. This is really going to cripple level 5s, and it's going to make it weird. A lot of times, players kind of dictate their early game based on how much experience they know the other players got. Like, okay, I know he's going to get 5 off this wave. I need to play this one passively, and people aren't really going to know where people are at.
Well, I'll tell you what they're going to know is that both these two hunters are going to have a field day this game right now, because they have been left with solo farm already. Level 5 online for both of them, and these are two players that you would like to give solo farm to if you can, and they could make a big impact in this one because of how the game started.
I am excited for Oceans versus BaRRaCCuDDa. We've seen BaRRaCCuDDa really be this aggressive hunter, dominate every matchup he's had. Oceans has looked very good, but he has had a couple mistakes. We saw him get soloed by Arco in the last game, and kind of Arco had a much better game than Oceans did in the last one. Obviously, ALG still come up with the win, but Ocean's going to have to channel some of his earlier games, I think, if he's going to compete up against BaRRaCCuDDa.
And I think the big key about that last game that we saw him in against Sanguine there was the fact that he did at least trade 95% of the time, other than that solo kill that happened onto him from our kill. He did trade out when he died. He didn't have to be in those positions, trying to support. Talking about support, PolarBearMike makes a very good rotation. Going to force BaRRaCCuDDa to use that airstrike nice and early.
All that was just baiting out the ultimate from BaRRaCCuDDa, making him more susceptible to a rotation later on, mostly coming out from Weekend. I mean, Awilix actually has a great matchup against, Jing. I now know that god. I've only seen her every game basically this tournament.
I was where are you going with this?
But obviously, I mean, Jing wants to knock herself up so she can get that extended dash and have that attack speed. And if she's trying to knock herself up, I mean, Weekend's going to be waiting for that the whole time, looking for that ultimate.
Not just looking at Jing though. I'm also looking at JeffHindla, who's playing Bacchus this game. He also doesn't have the greatest matchup. Gravity Surge could be a big talking point in this game, as PolarBearMike looked for the pull. Not going to find it. Those Xenotronics with that threshold just had the juke boots available.
And he quickly turns around too, doesn't want to get knocked up by a Weekend. Obviously, that would have been a purification burner, and there's a fair number on the side of Luminosity.
Blink, engage, and there's the ultimate, and the Gravity Surge connects. I'm a monster, different story. Xenotronics is through space and time, will remove stealth on PolarBearMike. The tree is being chopped down, and Xeno gets himself a double kill on his Janus.
Weekend still looking aggressive, though. Mast and Xeno are poked out. Cyclone's level 7. Oceans has actually made the rotation, too, and BaRRa's not here at all. This is going to be an invaded speed buff, and it's going to be hard for LG to stop this.
Scaredy is here as well. Speed buff falls down the way of Allegiance, and immediately Allegiance get out of danger. Obviously, Suku, so good at getting yourself out with that mobility.
I mean, great engage from ALG overall. Mike blinks in, not being expected by LG, although Xenotronics actually pops his purification right before the ultimate from Sylvanus comes out so he doesn't get knocked up.
Oh, this is an interesting trade, because Cyclone just used ultimate, and in response, so did Scaredy there. And it's actually, Cyclone's going to have to back away from that engagement. The one thing about that play from Allegiance, though, was they weren't on the same page. PolarBearMike went in, and meanwhile, Weekend, he was already heading over to the speed buff area looking for a rotation. He just 180'd and ulted the first thing he could.
I think he got, was it Jeff he got?
Yeah, and it wasn't the one he really wanted. Let's be honest out of that. He was looking for anybody other than JeffHindla there.
And buffs are about to spawn, though. ALG still in a pretty good spot. They have about a 7 to 800 gold lead. Also, the experience still in their favor. BaRRaCCuDDa has farmed relatively efficiently, but actually, LG have closed that gap. I mean, they were down a couple levels in that mid lane early.
And that's more down to the fact that engagement in the mid lane just brought them all back into it for the most part there. He relieved some pressure.
Two kills on Xeno was big.
And that could have been a bigger situation as well, because the speed buff could have been invaded, the blue on top of that, and they could have just continued to put more pressure on. They did get the speed, obviously, but it slowed down Allegiance continuing to snowball the game.
And one thing about Mass, we saw him on the Susano, right-hand side though, scary in trouble, no ult.
Gravity Surge as well, Feather Step will keep him in place for the crush from Stealth to pick up the kill.
And we can actually feather stepping the ultimate from Xenotronics as well, so he doesn't get clipped in the end. I mean, that was just an ult trying to help out his team though. A little bit too late coming out, and a quick kill. I mean, I'm surprised CycloneSpin was that pushed up. You look at the right-hand side, there's not a single ward from Luminosity on there. You can't be at that edge of the tower with everyone missing.
And Luminosity and Allegiance here, both still, obviously Allegiance have qualified for the World Championships, but both these teams have had their fair bit as individual players of difficulty this year, trying to find a roster for themselves, trying to get themselves onto a team that they were comfortable with, and try and make a shot at going to the World Championships. Obviously, BaRRa and Jeff really wanted it, so did Stealth. And then Weekend, Weekend and CycloneSpin, they made it to the console invitational last year after failing to make the World Championships. This time round, though, it's a different story.
And I mean, Weekend and Cyclone were favorites to go to Worlds last year.
They're favorites to win.
They were favorites to, yeah, I mean, they were the best team coming out of North America. Then all of a sudden, the second half of the fall split, meta shifts, Cyclone can't play carries anymore, and it's just this slow downhill effect for Envy as they just repeatedly lose all these games and then end up getting beat by Enemy, actually, and a huge upset.
And now Enemy not even involved in Super Regionals. That's how crazy the scene of North America has been this year. As Luminosity themselves, I mean, you can see there's 3 members on this roster that weren't here this time last year. Obviously, Baskin left, then they had as well. On top of that, Stealth was removed from the team, and then on top of that, they also lost Aninster to the same place that Baskin ended up.
And honestly, LG have done such a good job with their rookies who have, been a little bit inconsistent, but Mast has truly been the one to show up. I mean, at the beginning of the year, he was highly touted. It was everyone was saying Mast was going to be this hot new thing. He was banned for a year competitively before that.
3 teams, right, so far this year?
It was 5. He actually joined 5 different teams.
That's impressive.
By the end of the spring split. Some never made it into the SPL, but Invade.
Speed buff Invade, and PolarBearMike's in with the ultimate again. No Gravity Surge this time round. ScaryD's already in the big baby form, but a big Medusa ultimate will pay off for CycloneSpin. JeffHindla blinks to the backside to get away with the belly flop, and now Stealth's ultimate is hanging around looking for an opportunity. Not going to find one. ScaryD though did juke out that, but now he's going to trade out and pick up Weekend.
And get away.
Stealth's in trouble as well. The Sanctuary's low. Great knocker from CycloneSpin. Stops Mask going aggressive, and it allows Oceans to clean up the kill.
Good fight coming out from ALG. Once again, Mike blinking forward. Just this surprise engagement that LG hasn't been able to read.
In the back, buddy.
BaRRa is still fighting this 1v3. Gets hit by the crush, and that's going to dissuade him. But
Mike
Mike is still hanging around.
Not going to hit home, but now he could go for the portal. CycloneSpin does pick up BaRRaCCuDDa though, thanks to the help of the cripple. Ocean still wants to speed up, but ScaryD teleporting back in.
I've never seen a Sylvanus run around in a circle for so long and yet still not die. And all credit to CycloneSpin there. He's been the one to just zone out all these players repeatedly coming back from base after they got away or died and healed up. And then he picks up, I think, 2 kills overall in that one. And ALG do steal the speed buff away. They're really kind of asserting this early game pressure that they don't want to let up.
It's funny, Allegiance want to win, but at the same time, they know they've qualified, so they're happy to play these really strange game in terms of, let's just fight over a speed buff with everybody from across the map at less than 10 minutes in, rotating for it. This is like a ranked game right now. Allegiance are trying to play ranked.
I mean, but you have to think of it, too. I mean, they're in the spot to do that. Mast only had boots. He didn't have the tier 2 Hydras, I believe, at the start of that fight, while Weekend did. Witchblade was completed by Cyclone. ScaryD just on boots. I think, again, only tier 1 of that steel mail at the beginning. I mean, you had these items that were completed faster than LG. You might as well take the initiation. You might as well take that engagement before they can catch up.
And I expected, with the 2 Hunters to be the one impact in the fight. They would be the highest level with how the game started, but those 2 getting involved has slowed them down as well. It's now allowed CycloneSpin to be the highest level in the game, even after
by a mile.
The crazy stuff that happened at the start. Oceans in a world of hurt. They both use engages though, so Oceans could just walk away with the lacerate. And with that, now the ultimate comes off as well. The pole will hit home. PolarBearMike, BaRRaCCuDDa needs some support right now. Oceans is still pushing forward. Gravity Surge
around the corner.
Xenotronics.
And he's going to find one knocked up, but Xeno does make it through the wall. Stealth into his ultimate. Going to be using it on Gold Fury as ALG starting this up. It tickles it, but now they don't have that ult to confirm it. No Wrath for them. JeffHindla pushing forward, no ultimate.
I mean, he's a Bacchus, and Bacchus have an opportunity with the flop combo, boys.
Oh, that's
not gonna be
reset.
available.
Oh.
Allegiance get the Gold Fury. They get ganked on the left-hand side. Ocean survives. Instead, it's the boys of Luminosity that lose the trade.
And honestly, atrocious response from Luminosity, too, in that left-hand side. 2 players got stunned by Medusa ult, and there was nothing that could really guarantee that ult from them. I mean, you know, when you're knocked up, you can turn your camera. But again, PolarBearMike with these blink Sylvanus ults. I mean, it's something that LG have just been surprised at. Every single time we've seen it, they have not reacted to it fast enough.
It's actually helped out Michael a lot in this lane for the whole game, actually, because Sylvanus in the early stages really struggles. He went blink, and that's a risky thing to do as a Sylvanus. Your mobility is not your greatest asset here. But this engagement on that speed buff at the beginning of the game allowed him to get through the early game and not be focused down, which can happen a lot to Guardians.
I mean, how this is working is actually because of CycloneSpin and Weaken. They're actually being these aggressive frontliners when normally you expect kind of the Sylvanus to be in range, and so it's actually, PolarBearMike's playing a little bit of a jungle position where he's actually the one looping around the side and then getting that big teamfight ultimate off.
And because of that, it's a level 13 for Oceans here. BaRRaCCuDDa is not too far behind there because he does have that minion wave. But the tier 1 side on the right-hand side is being looked at here. Scary has to back away. He is now 3 levels down on CycloneSpin.
And you can see, even if he tried to defend that, even if Cyclone and PolarBearMike can't kill him, Weaken and Stealth were at the speed buff stealing it away.
And they want the speed again. But the bad news is the speed is currently down for the time.
No, they just stole it.
Sorry, they stole it. My bad. I was like, they're looking for the speed again. No, they just want to fight in the jungle of Luminosity when there's nothing even available to take.
I mean, you have a huge lead. If LG is going to be pushed up into their jungle, you might as well take it. Left-hand side, though, BaRRA trying to get away.
And he will with the airstrike, but giving chase, Ocean still considering it for the time being. Will change his mind, though, knowing the mobility of a Jing Wei. He did everything he could, though. He did force the ultimate, at least.
Oceans is by himself. He needs to be careful.
No
and
ultimate.
if LG realizes they are going to go aggressive
no
on him.
purification either, and Oceans is in a world of hurt. The Sanctuary's already been used, but the Intoxicate and burst damage of an unstable Vortex will remove Oceans. I don't know what that call was.
He was just there by himself. I mean, the rest of his team was all in the right jungle. He didn't, I think he had the single ward on the spot he was at, but just not really aware of where LG was. Not the biggest deal for ALG to lose him in that spot, simply because Luminosity's not in a position to steal anything away, and so all that he's going to lose is just a bit of farm.
9 kills in less than 13 minutes in this game. Gold lead is stretching. Well, not stretching, but it's kind of even now. I guess about 4,000. Actually, no, it's more than 4. Yeah, it's just over 4,000 for the most part. 5,000 experience is the bigger picture, though.
And we're seeing it mostly on CycloneSpin. I mean, he's just done such a great job. He got the early kills. He's been a part of every invade, every single fight in the game. JeffHindla also not very tanky. Just now at 13 minutes, he bought the tier 2 of Sovereignty. All he had was tank boots and Vanguard, and so it made him hard to kind of jump in there and deal with ALG's early aggression. Now in a little bit better of a spot, but he needs to get that physical protection online. He needs to finish Sovereignty off.
The funny thing is, when you look at this squad of Luminosity, though, all we've said all weekend long has been the fact that they are not a laning phase team. They do not do well in the laning phase. And that's one thing Allegiance has tried to deny this game, is giving them a single chance of a proper laning phase.
There's not a single laning phase. They've just been fighting and invading. This is not laning, Hindu.
That's what I mean. So it's like what Allegiance have tried to do is make sure that like the laning phase is even more awkward for them because they're not going to give them one in the first place.
I think it's their first 15 minutes just don't go well. I think that's what it is more than anything. They don't respond well to aggression. They're great at team fighting, but they're not quick enough, I think, on their rotations.
Oh, well, Scary D's going to be quick enough to get back to the base. And he's going to find the hard way back there with the Fountain introduction, thanks to the help of Weaken.
And, I mean, Xeno ult, but Scary D was dead 5 hours ago. And so that's just going to be down for the next fight as
and with the tier 1 being down here, yeah, 4 members on the right-hand side for Allegiance. They can look to pressure the tier 2 tower now. BaRRaCCuDDa can't even rotate at the moment because he's still being aggressed.
Oh, Mast, he's going to be pinned in place. Again, PolarBearMike with the Blink ultimate trying to keep Xeno in place.
Great crush.
And the crush for over half his life as Cyclone deals with Mast and Jeff, and it's going to be a tier 2 for them likely. They still do need a wave, and it's a decent ways down.
Yeah, they need it minions, though. That's the big key here. They can try and deal with it for the time being, but they need the minion speed buff respawns. BaRRaCCuDDa, who was pinned in the duo lane by Oceans there, is now making a rotation to this fight, but I don't know if he's going to be in here in time to make an impact.
Have they got a single speed buff or blue buff? I mean, I'm really interested to see if we do the I want to see the jungle camp control if we have that today later on, just because for 14 minutes, I don't think they've gotten any of their buffs but red.
Weaken walked into the jungle at level 1 and went, Mass, look at me. This is my jungle now.
I'm the jungler now.
I mean, he is already being the jungle.
Well, they're both junglers.
That doesn't make sense.
Come on, man.
Yours wasn't as intelligent as mine.
Just come on, man.
I'm sorry, I'll let you go. However, he may get a red buff on this left-hand side, though. Masty's hanging around right now. The Gold Fury about to respawn. Allegiance got the last one of these. But the second one, a little bit more valuable than the first in terms of Gold Furies, just because it scales as the game goes on.
Yeah, early game Gold Furies are sometimes a little bit too risky because even if you get the gold, just losing 2 players in a buff actually negates that lead. But ALG are in position. It seems like they want to be the aggressors here. Looking for a pick right now. PolarBearMike, no blink for 40 seconds, but I mean, blink picked up by stealth and weaken as well.
Well, look at where Cyclone goes. Cyclone just walks straight up to the red buff. But let's have a listen to CycloneSpin and the boys of Allegiance.
I'm fine, I'm good. Janus, we're good. Help Cyclone, help Cyclone. I have blank and all. Just group up. You guys? Nice. I'm ulting. Nice! I'm here. Box. Oh, nice. Dead. Nice. Wait for heal. I still have blink up. Hey, heal. Keep going Jing. Right now. I'm going on Jing. That's Susano. Jing way. Come on, barrel. Nice. Ripping through, bitch. Come on, Sam. I'm good. Run to me. Do you have a heal? Yes, I do. Do we want to reset?
They're all here.
Take that red. That's your red.
They're slow. We need to reset. Cyclone, help.
Dash. We can do it. I think we can do it.
Do it.
Do it. I can fucking zone their entire team. Yeah, do it. I don't have burst.
Can you guys do it without me? Yeah. I won't do it. Susano won't do it.
I have burst in 5. I have a heal soon. Healing now.
You guys got that shit?
Oh my god,
shit.
are you guys
Just
kidding
start
me?
When actives, how long on actives? Anyone?
Well, you heard the comms of Allegiance there on the Steel Series listening, but what you could hear in the background was the whole of Europe. I will tell you that now because they were doing it yesterday as well. They are cheering Allegiance every single kill and play right now because they know that Allegiance are their hope and dreams right now. Luminosity have to lose all 3 for Europe to have a shot, okay? So Allegiance winning here is for Europe.
They're going to be cheering for Flashpoint,
all those cheers are for the boys of every team that plays against Luminosity today.
It's, I mean, it's not going to be easy, though. I mean, LG have a couple more games to play. It's really going to come down to that Flashpoint LG game. And if they could take it and then, you know, gives Digga hope as well, very slight orbit. I mean, they still have these really outside chances, but it does rely on LG losing.
Only team completely out is Sanguine. They've lost 3 games. There's just completely no chance they've got a way back in right now. If you lose 3, you're guaranteed out at this stage. If you hold the keys to having 3 wins, you still have a hope in hell's chance.
Well, it was confirmed to us during the listen-in that Luminosity got 1 blue buff.
A whole blue.
So there's that.
1 blue, 0 speeds, and none of the fire elementals at the start of this game.
Oh, that was 0 fire almost too.
Yeah,
that's correct.
That's exactly what Allegiance have managed to do in the jungle with this invade that they began with. JeffHindla knocked up, space into the portal coming through there from the support of Xenotronics to try and slow them down, taking this tier 2. But that tier 2 is really on its last legs right now. And with Weaken hanging around, he will find the gravity surge onto Masked there, but Masked quick enough to use the purification.
And LG, that's okay for them, and they just hold their tier 2 on the right-hand side. But it seems like LG don't want to give it up just yet. They do have the healing coming out from Sylvanus, and Cyclone going very aggressive already.
Crush, and now Scary D's dead. He's going to juke out the Armor Monster though, but there goes Weaken, making sure he gets in there to pick up the kill. Cyclone is just able to tank the whole team. You heard him on comm saying, I just zoned their whole team. Well, he's doing it again.
He's level 19. I mean, he's 5 levels above every single player except for BaRRaCCuDDa on Luminosity, and honestly, Barra probably doesn't have the build right now to shred through an Erlang Shen. I mean, Cyclone is basically invincible at this point in the game.
BaRRaCCuDDa is having flashbacks of the Soul set right now. That's what's happening to BaRRaCCuDDa.
Oh, where he can't do anything.
He's got PTSD after the Soul set of what happened where he just existed and nothing happened to him. And this game, Allegiance are doing the same thing to him. Although Cyclone may have bitten off it a little bit too much more.
I'm sorry for the caster's curse.
Cooldowns are a little bit too long for him to escape this.
Oh, he actually splits it between the unstable vortex. He's going to die to like an archer shot or something.
Xeno did an ataraxia then, that's what I saw.
Well, caster's curse, he's not actually invincible when he dives a tower 1v3.
And now it's the boys of Allegiance just falling back one more time. It's a 10,000 gold lead at less than 20 minutes in this game. 12,500 experience as well. And this is the biggest shock of the tournament. Is it the biggest shock though? Allegiance, you know, they were formed for the gauntlet. We keep saying it. They are, on paper, a decent superstar-ish team, but they've had very little time together.
They definitely are the biggest. I mean, I expected them to do okay. I put them as having a chance, but to potentially go 5-0 is not, especially with Orbit dropping into the group too. You had kind of expected Orbit to put up a much better fight against them, but they weren't able to do it in the end. And this team, which is, you know, I think was, what did Tom call it? It's the Frankenstein team. It's the Franken team. Just kind of it's just like a bits put together. You know, you got the dual lane, you got Mike and Ocean. CycloneSpin technically was on their team before, but he's kind of his own entity. And then you got Weekend and Stealth just working together so flawlessly. I mean, because all these guys have played together before, the only issue on synergy was PolarBearMike working with Stealth and Weekend.
Yep.
And I think it was a position where, you know, Mike has always had to be this leader on his teams outside of Eager from last year, but all year he was on lower end teams trying to, you know, get everyone in line, and now he can kind of just take a back step to Weekend and let Weekend run the show for him. And then we still hear him making calls and fights, but it's not like everything's on him anymore.
And I think that's the key with PolarBearMike there. He's been on a team like Zapman's on Eager, where he was not a leader, he was just a drone. That was your job on the roster, be a drone for that team. Then he moves into the roster of like Randozos and the likes, where he has to be a leader, and now he's found himself in the sweet spot on this roster.
And tier 1 on the left-hand side going to be picked up once again, utilizing PolarBearMike. He has those heals, and Luminosity not going to respond. Do they have ultimate coming online from Xenotronics? Yes, it was, but not just electing to give up that tier 1.
I mean,
I think they want to defend this Gold Fury.
Is it the Gold Fury? Is it just the
LG need to make a stand soon. I mean, if they let this Gold Fury go, if they, you know, let themselves get baited into Fire Giant, surprisingly, Xenotronics is actually split pushing mid here.
But he's trying to keep him busy. He's got space and time to get away from danger if he needs to. That was a nice juke there, just to avoid the pin. And he can just waddle away to the right-hand side, where BaRRaCCuDDa is farming on the right-hand side too. This is just Luminosity trying to get some global gold for the team, get some farm somewhere onto the hard carries, which at this stage would be the Janus, and it would be Jing.
So LG are going to get 2 tier 1 towers here with BaRRa and Xeno split push, but they give up a tier 1 and tier 2 on left and the Gold Fury.
I don't think we call them giving up anymore.
I mean, that's a huge net loss.
I don't call them giving up in terms of tier 1, tier 2 in the Gold Fury. It's more like, what gold can we get? Space and time's late, and it only hits Mike.
I don't think Mike just didn't even move. His face is like, oh, I'm going to get hit by the Shaun Assault. Okay, I got to restart my back. That's unfortunate.
I think he was already backing and had the screen open.
Oh, he was in store.
Oh.
He was lazy backing.
Oh, I got hit. It got cancelled. I don't know what hit me. Oh, it tickled anyway. Never mind.
Have you ever seen those players? I've seen like players before like get hit by a Janus ult and not realize it for 6 seconds. And they're just like, all of a sudden like, why am I not back in Fountain? Oh, it got, what?
Hang on, how did I get back to Fountain quicker? Oh, this snipe hit me and I died. That's also the other case that can happen sometimes. 13,000 gold lead now, roughly, for Allegiance. And this is almost a formality at this stage for Allegiance to close this one out, just because of the massive amount of leads we can see on the boys of Allegiance.
We've really seen so many games. Weekend gonna look for Xenotronics. Can't even make it to the wall. Finally does.
And that's an unusual situation, but Mass, meanwhile, is already dead. I'm a monster used by Stealth to disengage.
This could be good for LG.
Comes in, but now BaRRa's alone. Great use over the wall, and Stealth can't read it right. He gets out. Now the pull onto JeffHindla is going to make Jeff disappear as well. Stealth on a rampage because of that. Great ultimate from PolarBearMike will pick up Scary D as well. And BaRRaCCuDDa's trying to bag, but Cyclone is having none of that today.
Oh, and Curse. He's not going to get away. Stealth over the wall with the blink. Sanctuary going to buy BaRRa a minuscule amount of time. He dashes into the mid-harpy walls, and he's finished off by a basic from MLC.
And MLC, BaRRa just turned around and then went out. So that's what it feels like to lose to Stealth's Scylla.
I mean, you have to think about this, too. I mean, BaRRa chose Xeno over Stealth. He had the option to bring him on the team after Boosh quit Luminosity, you know, after they couldn't make the spring split. And he didn't choose Stealth. I mean, he chose Xeno. He felt more confident in Mast and Xeno. Split up from his friend. I mean, they are still good friends, but he said he went for the business decision.
And the business decision was the fact that he was getting a jungler and mid that had synergy together, and I think that was the key there as well. It was it friendship, space and time over.
Yeah. Not going so well for LG in this game. And ALG, I mean, they're about to 5-0 in the wildcard group. Can you believe that? Can you believe this team 5-0'd in the wildcard group?
I had them down as competing for the second spot.
I did
think
too.
They had a real shot. I think it was them, Orbit, and Flashpoint as the 3 that could potentially take second here in this group. I know it's going to be Allegiance that are going to take first, and it's Luminosity that are fighting for second, who I had Luminosity as being the first to come out of this group.
And they've just done so. And it's not even just oh, CycloneSpin's gone insane, or Stealth's gone insane, or Oceans has been, like, they've all individually had such great games, and their synergy, their teamwork, their shot calling has all been a high-level team. This team clearly deserves to be at SWC.
I agree. It's been a solid performance from them, but there's definitely room for improvement that I can see during the games, and that's what you need to recognize. If they want to go on, they still have to play teams like Saw at the World Championships. They've still got to play teams like Eager at the World Championships, and then they've also got to face off against the might of Energy. And Energy, you know, they're still the #1 team. Whether they look different this year to last, they are still the World Championships looking to defend that title.
And Obey, I mean, they look solid. They come out with a game plan. I mean, Orbit don't respond to it. They let Orbit just let Obey get their same composition 4 games in a row, and they just couldn't beat it. I don't know if Obey is going to have as good of a run. I do expect to see multiple Ymir vans against Variety, at least by North America. But all teams, I mean, it's going to be a very competitive SWC. I don't think it's going to be as one-sided as it has been before.
Well, the second Felix is being sieged on the left-hand side. Now CycloneSpin holding mid lane with the support of Weekend, looking to flank around the back if they can find an opportunity. Space and Time is fired, and Space and Time does less damage than what we saw in most of the games in the Challenger Cup.
It's not doing a lot right now. Xeno has a Doom Orb as well. Shell is popped by JeffHindla, but he's pulled into the team and blown up straight through the shell.
And that was if even no belly flop coming into play. Great ult from Master, but Master's still too low to weather the storm, and PolarBearMike will get credit for the kill. Scary D is trying to put the beat down onto CycloneSpin, but he's about to heal up. As Stealth picks up BaRRaCCuDDa again, Scary D wants a kill onto Oceans, and Oceans is going to deny that option.
Only 2 Phoenixes remaining left side done. They still have the heals from PolarBearMike, and ALG are walking into the Titan room, and they're going to pull Xeno straight out of Fountain for the final BM kill.
D aside, Titan falls Allegiance. 5-0 the group. 5-0.
How ALG 5-0ing in the group. You could see the grin on their face. And I mean, this game didn't mean anything to them. It still mattered for Luminosity. If they won this one in their final game against Dignitas of the Day, they could take the loss to Flashpoint. But actually, LG is not as in clean of a position as you would think.
We've not seen a lot, honestly, of invades at the start of the game as we expected to potentially see over the course of this group, but it was Allegiance that did it at the start. It messed with Luminosity's head completely, and it caused so many issues.
That seems to be the main issue with Luminosity. They don't respond well to early game aggression. They, I think, got a handout against Dignitas when Dignitas, or not Dignitas, excuse me, that was who was that had that handout from Dignitas when they messed up the blue buff invade?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. In the end,
it was
they haven't. But you know, even BaRRaCCuDDa himself kind of admitting it, where they don't do good in the early game. You know, whether it be laning phase, whether it be aggression of their buffs, they don't respond very well. You could see it's the rookies that have to deal with it. JeffHindla's not really a part of an invade on the right-hand side of the map at level 1, and so Scary D, Mast, and Xeno, they are the ones who really need to step up in those situations.
Well, Luminosity right now is still in a very good position in this group. That was only their first loss in this group stage. They had 2 wins yesterday, which puts them at a 2-1 right now. If we bring up the standings here, you'll be able to see exactly how the day is going to continue to play out, because Luminosity have 2 more sets still to play, Flashpoint and Dignitas. If they can find a win against Flashpoint, that should still put them through.
And Flashpoint still has a chance here. I mean, they only played 2 games yesterday. They can 3-0 today, and if they beat Luminosity specifically, they have that head-to-head if they get into a tiebreaker situation with them.
Very, very true indeed, and that's where the tail of the tape really is here. Allegiance 5-0. Luminosity 2 wins out of 3, and as you can look further down, this is where all the Europeans are kind of sat right now, hoping that Luminosity stumble on day 2.
And I mean, Flashpoint, they haven't looked like they did in the group stage. We haven't seen Flashpoint in a single game show up to this land, but we know what they're capable of.
They have a lot of strengths in a lot of areas there. I do want to say that these guys can turn it up. Veti and Benji,
Yes.
When Benji goes off, he can really have a good game. Veti, for the most part, is consistent in that role in the Hunter position as well. And I guess their core is where they need to really focus on today. Homie and Hurrywin have been the ones that have struggled.
Shadow Q a little bit too. They really need to have a positive 3v3 matchup, and I think it's going to come down to Homie FA needs to hard carry these 3 games.
Well, we'll find out if Homie can do that later on for Flashpoint. But now the analysts are ready to talk us through watching Allegiance 5-0 after beating Luminosity.
Thanks, Hindu. Well, things remain a bit more interesting for the rest of the day, and ALG close it out 5-0 in the group stages, I don't think anyone expected this dominant of a performance.
No, not at all, especially with how little time they've had together as a roster. And now getting these 5 wins, they guarantee themselves the first seed heading into Worlds out of the wildcard group play. I'm really surprised at how successful Allegiance was, especially against Luminosity.
Yeah, I've really got to hand it to them in that game. They played their comp honestly to perfection. They knew that they needed to get ahead early, especially into Mass, this momentum-based jungler. And their fight in the early game, like they took the level 1 fight, of course, and they just completely rolled them, honestly.
They delayed it for so long that they actually had that rotation early on from PolarBearMike, finding the blink, finding the root, getting the first blood. It was just so perfectly executed out of Allegiance.
And it was really the attack of the speed buff. I mean, that was the story for what felt like, you know, the first 4 minutes of the game. There was just constant fighting over that one speed buff. In many ways, this is a very untraditional kind of approach from ALG, but it seemed to work out for them. Why was that?
Both teams rely very heavily on their junglers to get any sort of momentum off the board, especially for Weekend trying to synergize with either Stealth or to CycloneSpin. And the fact that CycloneSpin did have that Erlang Shen, he was easily able to really abuse the Scary D playing the Vamana. He had like a 4 or 5 level lead at one point in the later stages. So overall, you deny the speed buff, you win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially into that comp. Like whenever the Awilix and the Erlang Shen start getting ahead, it's so hard to shut them down. Especially with the comp that they had. Like the comp synergized so well together. Especially the Erlang Shen and the Awilix. But with the early Sylvanus rotations coming in, it meant that they could do so much with it.
PolarBearMike was definitely making some really hot rotations, easily able to set up not only Oceans, but also on top of MLC stuff, hitting these easy abilities.
Yeah, to be honest, in the draft, I didn't really understand the Sylvanus pick, but after seeing how they played it, it made a lot more sense. The Sylvanus has great push in the early game, so it meant that PolarBearMike could make this rotation over there really quickly, just in case this invade went kind of poorly, like it did sort of at the start, but it really allowed them to get that final blow on him.
Also hitting a lot of sick pulls towards the end there as well. The last one, just for good measure against Xenotronics, was just the last nail in the coffin for Allegiance.
Well, the jungle control was highly in favor of ALG throughout that entire game. They were dominant on the right-hand side, and in many ways you could see in the map here that it was all on the left. Luminosity just could not figure out a way, and it only got worse throughout the game. And that just kind of was the story of today. And now Luminosity go back to the drawing board, trying to figure out if they're going to be able to get themselves into Worlds now that they've still got a win on the board that they need.
They're still in the best position out of the rest of the teams currently in the group play. They have 2 wins out of 3 games played at this point in time, whereas the rest of the teams have at least 2 losses, whereas Sanguine have 3. So as long as Luminosity win their next 2 games, they're guaranteed Worlds. They still control their own fate, but if they only win 1 out of those 2, there's still a lot of tiebreaker scenarios. So Luminosity, they need to figure out a way to close these next 2 games out.
Yeah, no, they really shouldn't be too worried about losing that game. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter too much that they did. So they still have 2 more chances to win, and that will knock out a lot of teams like my own, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, if Luminosity do win 1 more, your team will get knocked out. Team Dignitas will get knocked out as well.
But there is still time. Flashpoint Dignitas, they are coming up right after this. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you back at the analyst desk after this.